Coach, can you give us an update on Chris Paul, please?
I think the update has already been given, and so there's no need to talk about that anymore. We put a statement out, and I've been pretty consistent when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm not at liberty to talk about those situations.
Next up is going to be Dwayne Rankin with the Arizona Republic, and then Craig Fouie.
Coach, obviously it's been out that he's under the protocols, and you guys are giving an update on his status. I believe Saturday is what the release is saying. I just was curious, Joe, though, the reaction though to that, Coach, of him being under the protocols from the team, and if you guys just the reaction to that.
I mean, it's like anything else. When we've had guys in the past who've had it or been in that situation where you got to go in the protocols, there's a natural concern for the person, and that's basically where it ends. You know, the league is trying to do everything they can to, keep individuals and teams safe, and there's just a natural concern for an individual.
Next up is Craig Fouie with ABC 15, followed by Kellen Olson.
Coach, I guess the question then becomes for us in the media, what happens if Chris is not available for a game one of the Western Conference Finals? Have you thought through that yet in terms of Cameron Payne, or where do you go at that point?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we put ourselves in a position where we have time, Craig, but at the same time, as a coach, I have to think through those scenarios, and I've thought a lot about it, and we haven't made a decision just yet because we don't have to, but it is a process for me to not only think about, who starts, but the rotation after that, because it can change a lot based on who you go with as a starter and how your bench rotation changes.
Next up is Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports, and then Richard Science.
Hey, Monty, was the schedule around the facility affected at all by the status of Chris? And in terms of practice, did you guys practice today? Were you able to practice before? Do you plan to in the future? Just that kind of update.
Nothing's been changed at all. We practiced yesterday. We practiced today. Had a really good practice today. Got up and down. Guys got a really good sweat. They're actually still out there on the floor. So nothing has changed for us. We're just trying to manage these days. I've talked to a number of coaches who've been in this situation just to get information on how they've handled, this much time off and that kind of thing. So we're trying to keep a game rhythm as best we can.
Next up is Richard Science with Fox 10, followed by Mark McClone.
Coach, I know you always, tell your team, what you guys want is on the other side of hard. I would imagine this is one of those moments. What do you tell the team after, an incident like this? And what do you tell Chris Paul in particular, who it always seems to be harder for when it comes to the playoffs, when you consider what he went through in the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago, and even in the first round with his shoulder and so on?
Well, I try not to overthink things, and I try to limit the amount of information that I crowd the players' minds with, because right now we're just in a situation where all we can do is practice and wait to see what happens. So there's a natural tendency to let your head spin a little bit, but I try not to do that, especially with our team. There's a goal in front of us, and we're focused on that, and we're hoping and praying that we'll be whole again before we play game one. All we can do is the next right thing, and that was what we did today. We had a really good practice.
Next up is Mark McClune with Channel 3, Channel 5, and then Jovan Buha.
Hey, Monty, are you able to confirm publicly if Chris is vaccinated? And is there any contact tracing issues beyond this that could affect the team in the coming days?
I just said that I'm not going to talk about the particulars of anybody's case. And so I'm not even going to approach that question.
Next up is Jovan Buha with The Athletic, followed by Tim Reynolds.
Hey, Monty. Chris was obviously hampered by the shoulder injury in round one, and you guys were able to advance. What did you learn about the group in, when you had to play without him, I guess, in kind of projecting out if he does miss a game or two or whatever, kind of how you'll fare?
I think guys are always ready to play, especially in these moments. Now, obviously, Chris Paul is not someone that you fill in for easily, but it's the reason why your player development program is so important. We've had guys this year step up in big moments at that position, from Cam Payne to Etwan. Book has even played some point for us from time to time. So our guys are ready for the challenge, and everybody's dealing with it. If you look around the league, Philly's got a situation, the Clippers have a situation now, Utah's had one for a while. Like, everybody's dealing with it. So we don't feel like, we're the only ones dealing with a situation when it comes to health and trying to stay healthy. It's what you prepare for as a staff and as a team, and we feel like our guys are ready for whatever presents itself.
Next is Tim Reynolds with the Associated Press, and then Sierra Santos.
Monty, you guys were dealing with such an emotional high Sunday night. You sweep, everything looks great. Now this, you don't even know if you're going to play Sunday or Tuesday, depending on how deep the other series goes. How do you handle all the uncertainty, and how do you keep guys' emotions from kind of going on a roller coaster right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's too much to try to handle all at one time, right? And so one of the things we've said, if you're nutty enough to listen to me around here, we're just going to do the next right thing. And that's focus on the next practice, next film session. I just left our gym. The spirit was unreal. Our guys understand that we've dealt with stuff this year. Other teams have dealt with it. It's just part of the NBA. And from an emotional standpoint, our guys turned the page. I think, right after we got home and the crowd was there, that was a pretty cool moment for the team. But the next day, we got together. It was business as usual, because the one thing that we said, we were never going to let anything change our culture. And we got back into the gym yesterday, and it was a really good gym. We got some work in, and everybody went home. So we've never. This is new for a lot of our guys, being in this position. But as I said to you, if we're consistent with our culture and we come in and get our work done every day, I think that's something that we can hold on to, and it gives us a level of stability from day to day.
Next is Sierra Santos with Fox 10, and then David Aldridge.
You kind of touched on it earlier, Monty, but there's always that age-old question of the rest versus rust. Now, in hindsight, given the situation that Chris Paul is going through, how grateful are you that you were able to get that sweep in 4 games and that you do have this extended time?
I mean, you want to win as soon as you can in the playoffs. I don't think there's ever a scenario where you want to lose a game. And so for us to be in this position is a blessing for sure. Chris's situation aside, like, we just want to win. And so now you're trying to navigate the rest versus playing, and we're going to do the best we can with that. We'll have a couple of days where we get up and down and bump a little bit, but that's all you can do. Like, you can't change the circumstances. We've worked to be in this position, and now we got to take advantage of it.
Next up is David Aldridge with The Athletic, followed by Anthony Slater.
Hey, Monty. I don't know that there's a way to quantify it given what's going on this year around the league, but how much have you had to pull back from any type of real pushing of the guys, whether it's, canceling practices, not having practice, not doing much in practices, just so that physically they can get to the next game?
All year long, DA. I mean, from my perspective, this is the least amount I've ever practiced in my life. I mean, from day to day, we would come into the gym and we'd make a decision based on, the schedule or what I felt from the guys as far as soreness or how many minutes our starters played. I've never experienced anything like this. Even in the lockout season where we had back-to-backs, we still practiced more back then because load management wasn't even a part of the equation. Load management was a trucking company in Texas. It had nothing to do with basketball. And so now that we're in this era of, making sure guys are fresh, and then you compound that with, the testing and playing every other day, we had more video sessions and walkthroughs than we had practices this year. And it was what we felt could give our guys a chance to heal, recover, and be fresh for games.
Next up is Anthony Slater with The Athletic, followed by Dwayne Rankin.
I know you guys obviously have time for Chris to return to you guys before game one, but would it be fair to say you guys are operating pessimistically that he'll be there for game one and kind of have to prep under the assumption he won't be there for game one?
I missed the first part of your question.
Are you kind of are you guys pessimistic that Chris Paul will be there for game one, and do you have to just prep knowing that?
I'm not even going to go there until I have to. So there's no reason for me to be pessimistic at all. We just have to wait and see what's going to happen. And that's pretty much all I can say about that.
Next up is Dwayne Rankin with the Arizona Republic, followed by Brendan Clean.
Coach, knowing Chris and how much he is as far as detail and staying in contact with guys, how much dialogue do you feel like you will have with him even through this? Because that's just who he's been and that's who he is, staying in contact, constantly communicating over stuff and things that are going on.
Talk to Chris every day, and that's pretty much how it's been all year long. We're talking about the game, things we can do better as a team, family, advice about stuff. He and I were both ticked off last night that Book wasn't on the All-NBA team. That's pretty much a joke. And I'm just beside myself that we didn't have anybody on the all-defensive team. Those are the things we've talked about the last day or so. And so to answer your question, Chris and I are always talking. It's not always basketball. He's a guy that I like to pick his brain. He's always picking mine. We see a situation in a game or, something's going on in our families. We just talk, but it's like that with most of our players who are crazy enough to talk to me when they leave the gym.
Final two questions are going to be Brendan Clean with Locked On Suns and Nicole Jarena.
Hey, Monty, just understanding that there's not much else to say about Chris, but just generally speaking, is there anything different that campaign needs to do this week in terms of preparation, just with the potential that he'll have to take on more, or is it he's been part of your rotation and it's going to be pretty similar week for him?
I think the week will be fine. As I said, we don't know what's going to happen, but Cam has played with the starters a lot this year, so it's not anything that he hasn't done or he's not used to. So that part won't change.
Final question is going to be Nicole Jarena from Puerto Rico.
Hi, Coach. Before in the past game, you talked about the players' mentality for the safe protocol, the attitude through the season, and also the next riding mentality. So how this will be the key to facing the challenge to not have Chris these days?
Well, Nicole, it's a good question. We just don't know yet what's going to happen. And we've always had the mentality to not punt on third down around here. We don't want to jump the gun before we have to or make a decision before we have to. We try to go about our business in a fashion that's appropriate for the day. And so for me, I have to think ahead with a number of scenarios, but I don't want the players doing that. And so we try not to fill their minds with too much information. Naturally, you think about stuff, but there's no reason to jump the gun or make a decision until you have to. I am a man of prayer, and I believe in times like this, as it has been for the whole season. You have to have faith to get through the year the way that we've gotten through it. And, these are moments where you need a lot of faith. We're in the playoffs, and we got a chance to win and win big. And so my faith isn't going to waver now because we've had a few obstacles. We've had obstacles all season long, and we've gotten through a lot of stuff. And so you look forward to these challenges, you embrace them, and you move forward.